I get those goosebumps, baby. I get those goosebumps every time you come around. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC away days for the match preview, the penultimate match preview. It was put in the tweet earlier by Daz, and I was like, wow, it is. It literally is like the penultimate game before the end of the season. But we're always here to discuss what is for both teams a massive game for very, very different reasons, and I'm really looking forward to chatting about this. But of course, got the main man, Chris Hall. Tonight will be considered as Geordie Chris, aka Brandy and Blaze in the house. How you doing, my man? How's things?
I'm all good, mate. Yeah, all good. So you can see I got a vape to match your t-shirt. Sadly, I dropped my vape the other day, so I had to go and get a disposable one till I go to the shop tomorrow. So yeah, I've got me. So if anyone knows, I've got me yellow vape today, which is matching Pete's top. But yeah, I'm all good, mate. Really looking forward to the match tomorrow. Literally zero nerves. I'm actually really looking forward to it. So expecting a big performance. And expecting quite some scenes at St James's Park tomorrow. So yeah, all good. What about you, mate? You good?
Oh, good. Yeah, I was going to ask you that, and I'm glad that you said it because you talked about not having any nerves about the game. Is that a little bit to do with what happened yesterday at Anfield with the Liverpool result? If Liverpool had got that late winner, would you maybe have been a little bit different going into this game?
Yeah, possibly. Don't get me wrong. When I looked at the fixtures, I did think, especially the last few weeks, because obviously we've been paying particular attention to the fixtures. Yeah. But I did kind of think to myself, I do fancy us for the 3 points this weekend. I know Chris and Ash won't want to hear that, but I've been watching Leicester over the last few weeks because there's been particular interest in my household with Reds and Blues in the house. Yeah. So they've obviously been paying particular attention, and I just feel like. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like Leicester may have left it too late. There's been some pretty winnable games, I'd say, or games where they're still in it and it's just not fell their way. And I'll be honest, I expect tomorrow St James's Park to be absolutely bouncing. So if they were planning on picking up 3 points tomorrow, they've probably picked arguably one of the hardest places to come and do it. Because I think it's going to be like a carnival atmosphere tomorrow, isn't it? Because tomorrow, I'm classing tomorrow as our celebration of Champions League Day. That's how I'm seeing it. But stranger things happen in football, though, don't they?
They do. I think everyone's really confident from a Newcastle perspective that we will seal it. We only need a point to seal it. But I think most Newcastle fans are confident that we'll get 3. But look, you made some really good points about Leicester, and I'm looking forward to getting both Chris and Ash's opinions on this in just a second. But first of all, welcome to everyone in the chat. 100 plus already in the chat as we speak. I'm very, very welcome to everyone. We've got Jules in the house, one of our spanners. Welcome in. Hope you're well. We've got the likes of Dave. Dave Munden, welcome in. Craig Lee, always a regular in the chat. Jordan Toon for Life and Michael Palmer, always there. As well. Alongside them, we've got Dave Cook. Welcome, Dave. We've got N9NE, NUFC. Mark Taylor, our resident Arsenal fan. Welcome in there Hope you're feeling better. I know you said you were sitting in a dark room today after the Forest result. So hopefully we'll put a smile on your face. What I Eat There is in the house. Kamal, great to have you in there. And many, many more. And as Lisa's just said, I'll steal the comments for a second, Chris. Just a reminder to get your comments and questions in for both Chris and Ash as we're going on the show. And if you haven't already, click the like and subscribe. If you haven't clicked the notification bell, click that notification bell because it gives you a notice for any show that we do, whether it's last minute like yesterday's fantastic Champions League show, or whether it's going to be related to anything else Newcastle United, to get involved in that. And of course, away days would not be away days without having a fantastic opposition view. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back Chris from Leicester Till I Die YouTube channel. Welcome in, Chris. How are you doing?
I'd love to say it's a pleasure to be here, but I don't think it's going to be. But thanks for having me back, lads. And just be kind, please.
We will for sure. And of course, it's a pleasure to welcome back Ash from, if you've not watched it, the 12th Man podcast with Dan Potts as his Leicester representative. How are you doing, Ash?
How are you doing? You all right, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure to have you both on. And look, it's great to have you on as Leicester representatives. We are going to be very, very nice. I'm sure everyone in the chat will be as well, because we always are. But look, we have to start somewhere. But we'll start with Newcastle. We'll start with some level of positivity within our clubs at the moment. You know, Chris has talked about it being, a Champions League sort of celebration. You guys have played in the Champions League. If I'm right in thinking, and I might be wrong on this, please correct me if I am, you were the last team outside of the traditional top six to get Champions League, or 7 or so years ago. So, you are kind of flying the flag for all of those teams outside of that traditional top six that have been there and have broke that mold. From a Newcastle perspective, getting there, what are your thoughts on that as an outsider looking at Newcastle achieving that feat, or being very, very close to achieving that feat?
It's great news for you guys. I think it will be exciting to watch a new team in there that's not, like you say, the traditional top six, because St James's Park will be absolutely buzzing every Wednesday night that they play at home, and it's just going to be amazing. I think if your recruitment's right in the summer, because it's going to be an important summer to, obviously you've earned your place in the Champions League, but I do think you'll need some squad depth for the fixtures next season, things like that now. So yeah, I think it's great. It's great news for Newcastle, the city, and everything. And it'll be exciting to see a different team representing the Premier League.
Definitely. And Chris, what did it do for your fan base? Talking from a Leicester perspective now, when you guys got Champions League football, like, how did it sort of change your mentality and the way you were thinking? Because you're now playing Champions League football, and will it change in any way, in your opinion, Newcastle's fan base in terms of expectation and what's maybe to come?
I think the difference is, and I'm not being disrespectful here, but you were probably expecting to get some form of European football this season. Maybe not the Champions League, but you've got a good manager, you've got some good backing. So you were always going to be challenging. I think not as good as you have been doing, and it's a credit to you. I think for Leicester, it all happened for us the previous season. Because we didn't just qualify. No disrespect, by coming to third or fourth, we qualified by winning the damn thing.
Yeah.
That was mad, I'm sure Ash remembers it. I mean, it was getting time off work. I was ringing up another podcaster saying, "Can you speak to Japanese, radio on Tuesday?" I went, "Well, yeah, if you can speak to New Zealand radio for me on Friday." It was just absolutely mental. And I guess we didn't expect, well, I certainly didn't expect to go that far in the Champions League. We got a good group, but you can only play who you picked against. Let's not forget sort of how nice Arsene Wenger was to us and said that we were going to be an embarrassment to English football. His team then went on and lost 10-2 over 2 legs in one game. And, we got to a quarter-final of the Champions League in our first season. We were the last English team in the Champions League that season, last British team in the Champions League that season. And that was something that Man City didn't get the group for about 2 or 3 seasons, I don't think, when they qualified. So it was great times. And, if you'd have said to me 15 years ago that, you'll be at your home ground on a Thursday night, whenever Wednesday night, watching a quarter final of a Champions League with your son, I'd have, got you carted off by the men in white coats. Yeah, it's just mostly the downside, as I'm sure Asher will appreciate, is that your expectations then grow with that. Yeah. And
Massively.
that is the problem. And that's, I think, is probably where we have struggled and why we are where we are now.
No, I think it's a really, really good point. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to ask you that, because, it's important for a Newcastle perspective that we do keep a level head and the expectations don't go out the window or don't get too extravagant, because it is a building process. Yeah. You made a really good point as well, Chris, is that, Man City struggled initially when they got into the Champions League, and they did struggle to get out of the group phases, and it was a process for them to see what they're about to potentially achieve this season. It has been a process for them, whereas you guys did book the trend and get straight out and actually into the latter stages. So, you're absolutely right in that. And we talked about something positive. We talked about you guys playing Champions League football and obviously flying the flag for England. Like you said, you were the last English representative at that point in time. And look, for us, Chris, it's just a dream for us to be on the brink of or potentially playing Champions League football. And Geordie, Chris, from your perspective,
it's going to do your head in that, isn't it?
I have to say Geordie, Chris. Otherwise, I'm going to get confused.
I'm thinking you couldn't be coming back to me again.
I know. Look, what's it going to mean to you, mate? Back in Champions League, I remember us talking about, early 2000s when we were talking about going to Champions League matches and watching them so many years ago, and those days coming back now. Like, what is it going to mean to you? When that gets finalized?
Yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it? Like, I'm absolutely delighted, and it still feels a little bit surreal. I think until it actually happens, until we actually get there, and even till maybe the start of the season, I don't know, it still won't feel real. Like, I was saying to Lisa yesterday, my wife, I was saying to her yesterday, it's going to be odd, because normally when I hear, me red and blue mates, well, not my blue mates, but definitely my red mates going, oh, Champions League draws at 11 o'clock, oh, we'll have to watch it. Like, I just totally switch off from stuff like that, just because obviously I'm interested as a football fan, but it's not like the be all end all. Whereas this year, when the Champions League draw gets done, it'll be like, oh, I wonder who we're going to get. And for me, like Chris was saying earlier then, like, I don't really care who we play, but and this sounds really odd, but I kind of want it to be bigger and better. Like, I want the big teams. I want like the toughest group ever, because I want us to just, take in every single moment. Like, I want the Real Madrids, I want the PSGs, I want the Bayern Munichs. I don't want to end up in a, in a table where people go, oh, they'll probably make it through there. I want the most difficult test possible. And for me, just being in that conversation, in that pot for the draw, it means everything. It's just fantastic. And then watching us in the Champions League as well, it'll just be incredible.
Tell you what, Ash, the Champions League is so overrated. It's all about the championship for me.
Oh yeah, I think that's what the guys decided at Seagrave anyway, Chris.
Yeah. All I'll say, guys, is enjoy the ride wherever it takes you. If you don't get out the group, enjoy it for what it is. We weren't expected to beat anybody. When we had an easyish group, we weren't expected to do as well. But just enjoy every moment and just take it all in, because you never know when it's going to come round again. Hopefully again for you, but you just never know.
Definitely, you're absolutely right, and you have you segued us quite nicely, Chris, onto the next stage. But just before that, massive thanks to Mohammed again for your donation.
Thank you,
And
Mohammed.
he's asked the question. I'll come to you, Chris. Can we see Dybala next season with Newcastle? Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, his name, funnily enough, when the takeover was confirmed, his name was one of the the star people who we might be going for. But it's gone very quiet recently, hasn't it, for Dybala? He's at Roma, isn't he? Am I right in saying he's at Roma? Yeah.
With Mourinho.
I mean, there's no reason why not, Mohammed. I just question whether he's an Eddie Howe type player. I don't know.
Wages.
And the wages. But do you know what though, Pete? I was about to say wages, but surely at Roma he can't be on that much. He can't be, surely.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I don't know how much they're paying because they're not in Champions League themselves. But it's a great question, one that we'll cover in the loaded transfer show. Actually, we'll look at a bit more detail. And our resident Arsenal fan, Mark, thank you for becoming a member to Loaded Mag NUFC. Thank you for joining the family. I really do appreciate it. And look, we have to come across this question and this topic, guys. We talked about the positivity that you guys have had over the years, but look, you are in a very difficult position right now. And he turned it off. He turned his camera off. He didn't want to know. I'm sorry. It has to be talked about because, look, this is where we're at right now. 19th in the league. You've got a game in hand, but as we're talking right now, and we're talking about the preview, the game in hand is against us at St James's Park. So, if it goes what many think it will go against in terms of another defeat, you are going into the last game of the season against West Ham, albeit at the King Power, on 30 points, needing a win, and Everton to lose against Bournemouth, needing Leeds to not beat Spurs. It's looking difficult, guys. Honestly, what are your thoughts going into this last week, this big week?
Just dread, to be honest with you, Pete. It's been a really disappointing season. Obviously, miracles happen, and that's all less than we can sit and hope for tomorrow night. A miracle, because on performances we're gonna lace Newcastle's boots. They've been fantastic, especially at home. But bar a miracle, I think our fate is now sealed, which is unfortunately in the Championship next season. And picking the positives out of it, it's just a chance to rebuild and probably get some of these players off the books with really high wages that have not been doing much. But yeah.
No, I think that's a great point and a really good assessment. But I'll come to you, Chris, from a Leicester perspective. Ash has talked about it being a really disappointing season for Leicester City, and it is. Nobody expected Leicester to be in this position. Nobody. Even when we talked and we had the previews to the cup final earlier on in 2023, everyone assumed that Leicester were going to get out of it. What has gone wrong? What has gone wrong at Leicester City to put them with 2 games to go in this position, in your opinion?
How long have I got?
Long as you want.
It's been about, putting a plaster on, broken legs for us this season. At the end of last season, everybody was saying Brendan Rodgers, he's a 3-season manager at most. I think we got caught up with the hype. And don't get me wrong, he's won us an FA Cup. He's won us a Community Shield. But managers have the sell-by dates. And his had come, but we had a good end to last season, and we ended up finishing about 8th, which was not... That did not sum our season up last season at all. Yes, we got through to a conference semi-final in Europe, but of course we were actually in the Europa League at the start, so maybe that's not quite as good as it should have been. We said let's give Brendan a chance. I think he was hung out to dry a bit by Top at the start because he didn't get the money that he hoped, but Top was looking at us possibly getting back into Europe. And then if we had done and we hadn't made, cutbacks, then we would have been hit with FFP. And unlike, Manchester City and Chelsea and all them clubs, we actually try and stay within FFP rules. And so we couldn't buy anybody. But Top never came out and said anything. And this was the problem. He never came out and said why we hadn't bought anybody until the match on deadline day, which was 7:30 versus Man United. By which time, 90% of the fans were absolutely pissed off as to why we hadn't bought anybody. That would have been fine had we had a good start to the season, but we didn't. We had an awful start. Brighton put 5 past us, Spurs 6, Arsenal 4. It was like, it was like that film Zulu. Every time we looked up, they were still coming at us, and it was embarrassing. We then had a little bit of a mini run, which everyone said, things are turning around, but we were beating teams, and no disrespect to them, on paper we should have been beaten. Then the World Cup came along and it messed everybody's season up, not just ours. He should have gone then, Brendan. And I think if he'd gone then and we'd got another manager in, whoever that was, I don't think we'd be in this position now. But Top stayed loyal to Brendan, and look at the relationship they had after the Cup final. You can see that they got on. He felt guilty because he hadn't been able to back Brendan, so he was giving him a bit of time. We had a couple of good wins after the January window. We beat Villa and we beat Spurs, but looking back on it, beating Spurs isn't such a big thing this season, is it? And it was left too late. If you'd have got Jesus in, when we brought Dean Smith in, he couldn't have saved us. And Jesus saves, but he couldn't have done it. It was too late. We should have done it when Everton brought Dyche in. That's when we should have made the change. And it just shows what happens when you try and play by the rules, because we couldn't bring any players in because of FFP, because we've got a full squad. And we've got a lot of average players on very high wages because we've been trying to get into the Champions League. And we couldn't sell because nobody would pay them the wages that we were. So we couldn't bring anybody in without breaking FFP rules. And, apparently, if you try and stick to FFP rules, look what happens. I told you it was going to be a long answer.
No, I think you've made some excellent points and some really good assessments. Obviously, from a Leicester perspective, my nephew is a Leicester fan, been a season ticket holder for years, or certainly the last.
Sounds like a wonderful person.
Number of years, yeah, he is. But he's also talked about a lot of similar things that you've mentioned as well. So, it's connecting for me in terms of the things that may well have not gone wrong. But look, I'll ask you the question, and you've kind of talked about it with Dean Smith and the team. Do you think they were the right team to come in? And if they were the right team, at what point would you have made the change to bring them in? Because I look at that, and I'll be honest with you, and Chris, I want to get Geordie Chris, should I say? I want to get your thoughts on this as well, because I look at the manager, Dean Smith, and I'm going, honestly, I'm not quite sure. But then I'm looking at John Terry, and I'm thinking, top defender in his career, played brilliantly at Chelsea for his career. Leicester conceding goals all over the place. Can he rejuvenate them? But then I'm looking at Craig Shakespeare, and I'm thinking, knows the club. Was at the club when you're at your pomp, playing the best stuff. And I thought, actually, that pair, that trio might work well. I mean, were you happy with that trio coming in? And where would you have made that change with Brendan Rodgers to maybe give yourselves a better chance to stay in the league?
Do you want to go, Ash, or do you want me to go?
Go for it, Chris. Go for it.
Oh,
for me, he had to go after the World Cup. And he had to go before the World Cup, because that would have given us 4 weeks to get somebody in to get it right. Was he the right man? Who was left? That was the problem. If you're saying, did I want Dean Smith or did I want Jesse Marsh? Fucking hell, no. I did not want Jesse Marsh. I did not, no disrespect, want Rafa Benitez. I did not want Steven Gerrard. There's all these managers. So, and when you look at Dean Smith, Brentford are where Brentford are now, built on his foundations. Aston Villa, he got promoted. Grealish, he made into £1 billion player. So he's got that experience. Would he have been as welcome without Craig Shakespeare? I don't know. That was for me, a big plus tick in getting him. Excuse me. John Terry, I mean, look, our defence has been so shit all season. You're not going to change it around in 6 weeks. It's the teams are so demoralised. From what we had out there, it was the best of what was available. And we got 5 points off Wolves, Leeds, and Everton. Would we got those 5 points under Brendan?
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. But anything to add, Ash?
Yeah, well, pretty much just mirroring what Chris said. To be honest, I think that we probably should have got rid of him about the time that Dyche sort of went to Everton. Obviously, the sticking point there is we had a couple of good results just before the World Cup, didn't we? We beat Everton away and West Ham away. So obviously everyone's tails are up, and then we have a few stinking results after the World Cup, and that's it. We're back to square one. So, but like Chris says, to be honest, was Dyche the right man for Everton? Would he have done it for us? We're gonna know this time sort of next week, and that's the long and short of it. I'm not fancying our chances at all, but I think Everton or Leeds, just because of the fixtures, maybe are the rub of the green, But yeah, I think in terms of getting rid of the manager, we probably should have done it about the time that Everton got rid of their manager and got Dyche in. But again, like you say, who was there available? We can't keep putting it down to the managers. As a Leicester fan, I look at that squad of players and I just see minimal effort, and that's where it boils down to with me.
Definitely,
you could have Pep Guardiola in charge of them players this season, and I don't think you'd get anything out of them. Half of them want away. They've had enough of the club. They want to play elsewhere. And then we've got other players that are frustrated because they're not being picked, because these other players, on the high wages are being started. It's just, unfortunately, it's a bit of a rotten situation. And maybe, like I said earlier, the only positive could be we get a chance for a proper rebuild if we do go down. And we can get a set of players that want to play for Leicester City instead of a set of players on huge wages looking elsewhere.
I mean, just to come back with you on that point, Ash, I agree 100%. You look at Everton beating Brighton. You look at Leeds getting a draw. Could you have seen our team putting that much fight in?
No.
The players, sorry, the fans were shouting, "You're not fit to wear the shirt. You're not." Why do we keep picking Tielemans, who doesn't want to be here and is not that good anyway? We're picking Maddison, who's a show pony and likes to play for the camera rather than for the team. And yet we couldn't pick Soyuncu, who came back and had 3 man of the matches as soon as he came back.
Yeah.
The players have got a lot to answer for. But, I mean, was it 5 or 6 of them out of contract at the end of the season?
Yeah.
And are they really going to say, I'm going to fight and leave me blood on the pitch for this team? No, they're not.
No.
They are absolutely not. And it's funny that Soyuncu has come out and said that he was offered a new contract and he would have signed it, but then he thought, why should I sign for a club that I'm not even getting onto the bench for?
Great point. I want to hold you on to that point because we're going to come back to it in a second. We've got over 230 in the chat right now. Thank you for coming and joining us. And click the likes and subscribes if you are just joining mid-show. Great to have you with us. I'm not drinking Ribena. It is, as always, a nice, cool, cold glass of brandy. But what I will say is that you've made some really, really good points. 2 points that I want to expand on. I want to get Jordy Chris's perspective on this because Ash and Chris have talked about Sean Dyche, and I want to there was talks about whether he could go to Leicester and make the difference, and the boys have just discussed that in a little bit of detail. Just from your perspective, obviously being in Liverpool and being around Blues and Reds in Merseyside, what are the thoughts around Sean Dyche and what he's done at Everton, and are they kind of banging the drum for him about the job that he's done? Because think about where they're sitting right now in the league.
So the Blues, I know, not really. They're not really a big fan of Sean Dyche. They acknowledged obviously that Lampard needed to go. I think that was obvious. But I think, well, maybe I'm right or wrong saying this. I don't know, but I think Everton fans feel a bit more above the station. They think that they're better than Sean Dyche, and I think, and to be fair, I can half see it because Sean Dyche, unfortunately, is associated with like managing clubs who are near the bottom. Now, at the moment, that is Everton, but I think there's a hope and an expectation that they can gradually rise up and get away from that. And whether or not it's Sean Dyche to do that, I don't know. I at the time when Sean Dyche came in, I said that's a really clever appointment because if the worst comes to the worst and Everton do go down, Sean Dyche is arguably one of the better people to be able to turn that round and bring them back up. He's used to working with small budgets, which Everton were working with, and he knows the Premier League. So really, I thought it was a good appointment. But to go back to Leicester, I'm not fully sold on Dean Smith, but again, he knows the league. He knows, he knows how to deal with clubs who are towards the bottom. And when you were talking, Pete, before, about bringing in the likes of John Terry, if you're a player and you've got a coaching staff which contains John Terry, you would assume, wouldn't you, that there's going to be a lot of respect there, a lot of admiration, and Craig Shakespeare knows Leicester through and through, doesn't he? So I get the appointments, but I just wonder if Sean Dyche was available, would they have gone for Sean Dyche, and would Sean Dyche have taken it? Who knows? I mean, Leicester have got, well, I think anyway, Leicester have got a strong squad. So there was definitely players there to be able to work with. But the difficulty is, as Ash and Chris have already said, it's whether or not those players really want to be there and really want to fight for the shirt. And certainly what I've seen this season, there's been moments or times from certain players where it doesn't necessarily look like that's the case.
Superb segue, Chris, as always. But I want to say massive thanks to Stephen. He's in his truck, early start tomorrow, so he can park up and take a stream in. Great to see you in there, Stephen. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, he's already smashed the like. And if you haven't already, make sure you do. I think we've only got around 60 likes already for the show, but we've got way over 200 in the chat. Come on, you know what needs to be done. You know it makes sense. And come and subscribe and like the channel. We've talked about it. Chris, Ash, you've already kind of you're simmering on the surface with regards to the hot topic, and it's what everybody outside of Leicester knows and is talking about, and it's certain players that are not going to be there next season. And you've already touched on one of them. And look, feel free to go into a little bit of detail. I'm just going to swap this back, Chris, 1 second. Let's start with Youri Tielemans. You've talked about him before. Chris was quite vocal on him about 5 minutes ago. Ash, what is your opinion on Youri Tielemans for you this season? I have to be honest, just to add before you answer, I was shocked to see that he was wearing the captain's armband. Absolutely shocked. Yeah. But just what's your thoughts on Youri Tielemans?
That photograph you've got up there, Pete, explains it.
Yeah, I did it for a reason.
Literally, that's how he's looked all season. There's not been fight. There's not been, because I remember last season, there was still talk of him leaving, but he stuck a challenge in last season, and he was like whipping the crowd up and like waving his arms to the crowd, trying to get them on side and stuff. A bit similar to what one of your guys done to us earlier in the season when they won a challenge. And he was whipping the crowd up, and that was Tielemans a year ago. Now, no, it's shrugging the shoulders. It's effortless. The word I would put for Tielemans, I just think he seems lazy. But what advert has he gave for himself to attract a top club? Because I sit there and I think, what teams in the top 6 or 7 would he get in their starting lineup? None. Not on how he's played. Certainly not this season.
Yeah. You know what, Geordie, Chris, I'll come to you on that because I know because I've got something else I'm going to come to you with, Chris, with regards to Leicester. But you've banged this drum recently about him Talk to us, Yuri Tillemans.
Yeah. Yeah, do you know what? Like I mentioned earlier on, didn't I, that obviously in our house there's a couple of Blues, and they've obviously been looking at Leeds games, Leicester games, and I've been watching Leicester recently with them, and I genuinely, and I mean this, I think Yuri Tillemans has been a disgrace. I think he's been an absolute disgrace. That Liverpool game, he just wasn't arsed. You could tell he just didn't care. But Ash makes a great point, because other clubs who were looking at him, like we've been looking at him, haven't we, Pete? In January we wanted them.
Yeah.
In the summer we were talking about getting him, and now, like, I couldn't think of anyone. I genuinely wouldn't want him anywhere near Newcastle United. Wouldn't want him anywhere near us, because if he's got that attitude and that, yeah,
Michael Palmer said,
we'll have a body take him.
It's the classic signing, isn't it? It's the classic signing. Go and play at Villa. They'll give you a shed load of money. It's a little bit like Kamara. When we went with Kamara,
yeah, that's right.
On a free, he went from Marseille to Villa because he was given 200 and some stupid grand a week, where other teams were only going to willing to give him 120, 130. It just seems like that. But sorry, Chris, carry on.
No. So I mean, I've not. I mean, there was a few poor performances that I've seen recently from Leicester players, but to me, he stood out like a sore thumb. And Pete, you mentioned it as well about him having the armband. To me, it's just crazy. And what surprises me most about that is when we were talking earlier, about the likes of Shakespeare, the likes of Terry, Dean Smith. How have they not had that discussion? Because if we can see it, why are they not seeing it? And would it not be better to have a youngster in there like Dewsbury? Has Dewsbury Hall been playing recently, lads? Or is Tielemans in the team ahead of Dewsbury Hall?
I think he's been injured, hasn't he? He's
injured?
had a knock. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But I'd rather have an 18, 19-year-old running around than someone like Tielemans, who clearly doesn't want to be there, isn't interested, and then to give him the captain's armband. Like, would it not have been better to give it to Jamie Vardy? Would it not have been better to give it to somebody who, has kind of been on the whole journey, someone who's got the passion? Because surely John Terry, Craig Shakespeare and Dean Smith see what we see. Surely behind the scenes, they must be seeing that Tielemans has already probably been speaking with his agent and arranging his next club.
Two-word reply to that, Brendan Rodgers. He couldn't do anything wrong for Brendan Rodgers. He'd pick him no matter how shit he'd played. Yeah. And yet, like I say, Kagler Soyuncu, who had his head turned, apparently, according to Brendan Rodgers, because Atletico Madrid were talking to him. So Brendan Rodgers refused to pick him, and yet he picked week in, week out Yuri Tielemans, who wouldn't even sign a contract. That was the thing with the bell end, that he couldn't decide. He'd have one rule for him. His ego was more important to him than the team or the club that was paying his wages. That's why Tielemans. I tell you something though, Ash, and I tell you what, they're not. I mean, Soyuncu's off. He signed his contract, I think, with Madrid. But they're not banging the ball. I'm pretty teeth in. They're not banging the door down to get to Yuri Tielemans, are they?
No, and I like these guys say. I think he's going to end up taking a sideward step. Leicester City only a year ago were a mid-table team and actually trying to have a chop at a European slot. So why?
Tell you what, Ash. Would you, if Tielemans now turned around and said, "Actually, guys, look, because we know nobody's come in for me. Let me sign that new contract." I go, fuck off.
Yeah, literally.
Put yourself out, mate. Yeah.
Don't want you to sign. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want him to sign. No chance. Not with how they've been playing, shrugging the shoulders, not tracking back. When they're losing the ball, no effort at all. Whereas when you're watching Nottingham Forest, Everton, they're just fire in the belly still, and it's teams like that that will survive.
Forest, that doesn't it?
Let's not talk about that at this moment in time. I think that's even more sore subject. But look, you've talked about it. That you've all been
worse. Coventry could win the playoffs.
I know.
Just imagine that. But, just imagine Cov in Leicester swapping places. I'm not even going to go into that. But another player as well. You've talked about Tielemans. You talked about Soyuncu. Another player as well that we know and we've talked about quite a lot is obviously, of course, James Maddison. It's looking like he's moving on in the summer. He's got a year left on his contract. We knew last season that we were really keen on him. We had 2 bids rejected. The question I'll get your thoughts, and I want to get your thoughts on how he's played for you and his mentality and all the rest of it. As Newcastle fans have clearly watched him closely, but in your minds now, do you think to yourselves, we should have took the money in the summer and reinvested it? Because you've looked at 2 or 3 players that you've already mentioned that are going out of contract, that they clearly had their heads turned. Like, should you have cashed in on someone like James Maddison to be able to reinvest and buy a replacement that's committed to the club and giving everything to the club? That's just a question I'm putting out there for you. Chris, what do you think?
Hindsight's a marvellous thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, you're welcome to him, lads. I used to get offended by and I found some of the clubs, sticking our players in their shirts and going, he's going to be coming to us and he'll walk over broken glass. I'll fucking drive him to St James's Park if you want him.
I'll put the petrol in.
And that says me about, supposedly, we've talked about our 2 best players. The guy is a show pony, and when he steps up and takes the wank of a penalty that he did, I forget who it was against now. Everton. That was up there with what's it called, penalty against Cardiff in the playoffs, Kermagant's.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
If he couldn't just stick his boot through it. Now, conspiracy theory here that Jamie Vardy missed his the following week to make James Maddison feel better, but that's just a conspiracy theory.
I was shocked Vardy didn't take that against Everton, by the way, because he has been your penalty taker. So I don't
think he was on the pitch, was it, at the time? I don't think Vardy was
against
on.
Everton. I think Vardy was on the pitch.
No, I don't think he was.
Was he not?
Because Tielemans was holding the ball, and he should have been. And then Dean Smith comes out with the bollocks that, we don't have a recognised penalty taker. Fuck shit, every team has a recognised penalty taker, for God's sake. But look, you see him tackled, and if you're telling me that when you're 3-0 down and you get a tackle, you lose the ball, and you're smiling and making sure your hair's in place in case the camera falls on your face, show pony. You are. If I'd have been at the pitch at the game, I'd have run onto the pitch and given him a sugar cube. The guy is. I used to love the guy. But look, I've got a signed shirt of him there. I absolutely love the guy. But I'm sorry, like you say, I'll drive him. I shall put the petrol in for you. When can you take him? And I tell you, if he's played tomorrow, I don't think he'll make an effort because he will not want to get hurt, knowing that you guys might be coming in for him.
1,000,000%, and that's been the attitude and the effort of him since, most of the second half of the season. Really, to be honest, his head is elsewhere. And the one game that we managed to get 3 points, lo and behold, Maddison wasn't playing against Wolves
or Tielemans,
and we got 3 points.
No. I've got them both. I've not got either of them in my team. Excuse me for tomorrow night, Ash. I don't know about you.
No.
But no. If you want him, guys, come and get him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's down to just us at the moment. I think if you're in the chat, put that the Spurs seems to be the team that he's going for.
I'd love to see him go to Spurs. I mean, he's never going to win anything, is he? To be honest, if he goes to Spurs, I'd love it. Sorry, guys, I know you want him, but yeah, go to Spurs, James. Go on, yes.
But there are people that try, as reports are coming out from Newcastle journalists. Apparently, there's people that are trying to talk him round and say, not talking round, but saying to him, you're better off going to Newcastle than Spurs. Obviously, Spurs aren't having a good season.
Yeah,
he's got.
Are you really still interested in him though? Are you not after better players than that now next season?
Well, we've been linked with similar type of players. We did a video this week, just gone on Dominic Szoboszlai from RB Leipzig, who's a very similar type of player. Stats are probably better. In fact, a lot of the stats are his passing ranges. His effectiveness with the ball is actually better than Maddison's. That type of player. Maddison won't be the only guy that we're looking at for sure. So it's what I will say is that Eddie Howe is a fan, and I think it's been well documented around Newcastle and around people that report on Newcastle that Eddie Howe is a massive fan of James Maddison. So if there's a deal to be done and he wants to come up to Newcastle, I think it will get done. The one thing that I didn't take into consideration is that his wife's expecting twins. I've just seen the thing is his wife's expecting twins. I think it's a boy and a girl. They had the gender reveal. I saw like Hamza Chowdhury and a few of the Leicester players there for this big gender reveal on TikTok. And yeah, so he's obviously with that, he's got to think about his family. He's already got a child himself and with his partner. For us football fans, we're like, that shouldn't matter where he goes, but for footballers, it does. Whether he wants them to be in London or because London's nearer to where his family are in Coventry, or whether he wants to move north. I don't know.
Go to Coventry if they get promoted.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, imagine
Ash, do you not think, like, do you remember Jack Grealish when he first went to Man City? He was very much, he played for himself.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at Maddison's performances for Leicester, he wants the limelight. He will not pass the ball if there's a pass on for somebody to score, he'll have a go himself because he wants to be seen as the saviour, the guy that kept us up and what have you. And I think it possibly would take somebody like an Eddie Howe to actually tell him straight, come on, you're a team player, because I don't think he is.
No, I completely agree. And I completely agree with you on him sort of releasing the ball and playing simple passes in. Instead, he's trying to take players on and things like that. But then when he's losing the ball, not tracking back and working hard enough to get back.
Smiling for the camera.
Literally, yeah. So, no, I completely agree with you. I think he will end up at Newcastle or Spurs. The way them clubs are looking at it is they're going to get him for a decent price because his contract's running low. And it's a punt that they can take. And it'd be, if it does fail, it'd be squad depth, wouldn't he? Do you know what I mean? But his attitude has got to change if he's going to a bigger club because it's simply not good enough. Not good enough.
Great points as always. I'll get your thoughts on Maddison really quickly, Jordy, Chris. But as always, we always prioritise the super stickers. And Mohammed, again, thank you for your donation to the channel. And look, we direct our super stickers straight to you, whether we're on topic or not, because they're donated to the channel. Do you think Jamie Vardy will leave if Leicester City are in the Championship? I think 2 will win. Leicester City scenario now being repeated with Newcastle years later.
Yeah, to be honest, I personally think Vardy's going to retire at the end of the season.
Really?
I do. I don't know why. He seems to have slowed up a little bit this season. Obviously, we know he's not had the season of his life, but none of the guys have really, have they? But I've just got a feeling he's gonna retire. He's invested in a club in America, if I'm not wrong. And
that's gone bust, though.
Oh, was it gone bust? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, there we go. but I don't know. There's just something saying I'm queuing this announcement coming saying he's basically retiring. It'd be great to see him because we could do with him in the Championship. He'll find the net loads in the Championship because I've watched this.
I think he's got one more season left on his contract.
Yes,
and
I hope he does.
He loves Leicester. I don't think he's going to go to another club.
No.
If it is Sheffield Wednesday, we know will be the one. If they come up, but I think what an end to his story if he ended on the high of getting us back in the Premier League.
Up.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think it'll happen. Even if he stays, I don't think we'll come back up. But what an end to his story that would be.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be great.
Just to add into that, the only thing is, and I look back to our the first time we were relegated, which I believe was 08-09. And the thing with Leicester is, yeah, you've got some really good players there, and there are some players who are naturally going to leave, and then there'll be some players who you want to leave because obviously you're not sure how committed they are to the cause. But I look back to that 08. I'm sure it was 0809. Tell me if I'm wrong, Pete. I'm sure it was when we went down with the likes of Enrique, Colaccini, Jonas, Nolan, Barton. There's loads.
Owen, Viduka,
Yeah.
February Martins, Damien Duff. It's crazy.
There was some massive players there. But when those certain players who wanted to stay, we didn't keep all of them because some of them didn't want to stay. Like they were a cut above the other teams in the Championship, and I kind of feel that way about Leicester because if you had Vardy up front, as Chris said, if Vardy stayed around, he's got to be the best player in the Championship, surely, in terms of scoring goals. And then even the likes of Wilfred Ndidi, will he stay? Dewsbury Hall, I imagine, will stay because they can't all go. And I'm thinking there'll be some players who go, do you know what, I will stay. And I just think you've got the nucleus of a very, very good squad. Even if you kept 4 or 5 of the first team squad and then put players around them, and then you've got to. Do you think Dean Smith will stay? Will he stay and try and get you back up?
I don't know whether he'll be given the chance if we go down, but I think who else, like we've mentioned earlier, who else we're going to get? It's not like it's going to be a big job. Because like you say, I think we'll keep some players. I sat and I made a list the other day of the players I thought that were going to go and stay, and like there was 7 or 8 definitely that I was like, yeah, they're gone. But like you say, Chris, there is still that nucleus there that should be a team that's too good for the Championship, in my opinion. Maybe I'm being a bit blue tinted, but I do think that there is a basis of a squad there that is too good for the Championship, but they've got to get it right. And whether they give Dean Smith the chance, I mean, why not? Why not? He was willing to come in and take the risk when things were going bad, and he knew the job at hand. So why not let him have a go at the rebuild? But I'm not sure what they'll do.
They say that the saying is a team's too good to go down. No team is too good to go down. What you can be though is too bad to stay up, and I think that's right at the moment. Is that I mean, I hope indeed he goes because he's just a liability and he's not the player he was.
I can't believe. Before you move on from that, I have to ask you about this because I've asked a couple of Leicester fans. I think Chris, we might have talked about it. Jordy, Chris, we've talked about Ndidi before. We were close to signing before you guys did from Belgium, and he came through and he was awesome for you guys. What has happened? I'm watching him thinking he's fell off a cliff.
Two words. Brendan Rodgers. He has taken all these. Oh, he has. The bell end has taken all these decent players, and he's made them absolutely average.
Yeah.
Indeed, if he's in, you might as well just say have the penalty because he'll either trip you up or stick his hand up. I mean, the guy has absolutely. He was good. Man United have been linked with him after a first season with us. Now he's rubbish. But then we've got players like Samare and Daka that we've just brought in, Sutar and Christensen and all those. They'll have to stay because they're on longer contracts.
Yeah.
But do you remember, Ash, when we went down to League One?
Yes.
That was like expected. It was 2 or 3 seasons in the making. That was a bit like this one now. It wasn't a surprise. And you know what? It was the best thing that happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
That squad that we had 5 different managers that season. We were like Watford, with caretakers, and we went down. We got rid of all of the deadwood. We brought Nigel Pearson in, who had, funnily enough, kept Southampton up at our expense. He came in. He got the players he wanted in. He didn't take any nonsense. If he did, he got a few loan players in because he knew we weren't going to be down there hopefully that long. I don't think we'd have ended up where we were now if we hadn't gone down that season.
Absolutely.
It's just been literally, like I say, putting a plaster on it. Going down gave us that opportunity. So I might be a bit naive, like you said, I might have my blue tinted spectacles on. I don't think we're going to do a Burnley, but I think we could. I think it would be good for the club in the long term. Get rid of, even if we just pay them off, get rid of those players. We've got Albrighton. He's got a year left on his contract. Let's get him back in. He's played for West Brom for a season in the Championship, so he knows what it's about. We've got Hamza Chowdhury. He's got a year left. If Watford don't take the option to buy up, get him back in because he'll stick his foot in.
Yeah, he will.
He won't
But
take
as well, Chris, like Justin's going to be like a new signing for us next season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Who decided not to put him in the squad because he didn't think he was going to be fit in time? The bell end. Of course, now he's fit and we can't play him.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right.
I mean,
Just to be clear, I think we're on 4 bellends for the show.
sorry, I
There's
can
no
put a lot more bell ends
features.
in. And I say, what's wrong with Leicester? Do worse, Brendan Bellend. I mean,
Yeah.
That's fine.
and that's it. Dash. I mean, for me, that is the such the annoying thing is that he's not only got us relegated, but he's turned good players into decidedly average players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be this great coach that could bring youth through. Yes, he brought youth through, but has Barnes really moved on under him? Has Dewsbury Hall moved on under him? No. Because he's a bell end. There you go, 5.
Barnes is
I
off,
know
isn't
you're
he?
on 6. You're on 6. You're on 6. You said one a minute ago. You forgot you even said it. You're on 6.
Barnes is 100% going as well. I think you guys have actually been linked with him as well. The last I'd read, it was a double swoop they were looking for with Maddison and Barnes. So
I was going to wait until
Barnes.
the next
That is one that I would miss, Harvey Barnes. I think he'll go, but I would like to see him stay.
Let's talk about him now because I was going to wait till the next segment to talk about him. But let's just, because you brought him up, Harvey Barnes seems to be joining Chris. I think we've seen it in the Newcastle reports that he seems to be the one player that we're going for out of all of those Leicester players that we've talked about. Harvey Barnes seems to be the guy that we're heavily linked with more than anything. I've heard mixed reports from Leicester fans with regards to Harvey Barnes. You guys are talking quite positively about him. 1 or 2 are saying he's a little bit inconsistent. What would he like? Look, I'm hypothetically here. If he did come to Newcastle, what would he bring to Newcastle? What are his main qualities that make you really, really rate him as a player?
he's not afraid to take a man on, and that's why I like watching Barnes play, because he's very route one, and that's what we've lacked a lot of this season. And he's kind of been the man that will sort of carry the ball and just drive in, and I think that'd work really well at Newcastle. He's a very forward-thinking player, and I think that's the sort of perks of him. But like you say, the inconsistency is the issue. He's either the best player on the pitch, or the odd week he looks like he's running in treacle, So it's just it's just what Barnes you catch on the day, really. But will his attitude, again? We're going back to the same old story. Will his attitude change when he's at a club that he wants to be at? Yes, should imagine. But these are professional footballers that should be playing for any shirt that they wear, and that's the unfortunate problem. That's
true. Chris, what sticks out for you about Harvey Barnes? About why you like him so much at Leicester?
Harvey Barnes, he's got a love-hate relationship with Leicester fans. 50%, love him, 50% hate him. A couple of seasons ago, it was, he'll never take a shot, and he's always passing. He never has a go at goal. And then the next season, he was taking shots left, right, and centre. And it's like, well, he never passes. He's one of he couldn't do right for doing wrong. I like him. To be honest, I think he's actually better in midfield rather than on the wing. And when he scores a lot of his goals, it's when he's cut inside and going down the centre. So I think with the right manager, I think nobody progressed under number 7, Bellend. They all just, it was like Ash said, treading in treacle. And it's the same with Harvey Barnes. I think if somebody like an Eddie Howe got hold of him, he'll be in the England squad under Eddie Howe. Here's the one. If you came in and said, we're going to get Tielemans, take him. If you came in and said, you're going to get Maddison, we'll drive him there, like we said. Barnes, I'd love him to stay. Again, he's done it in the Championship, but we've got to consider he's probably we can't get any money for Tielemans because he's fucked us over with the contract. Maddison, Barnes are probably the ones we can get decent money for, but I'd like him to stay. But I think if any of those, I would say to you, Barnes is the one, that you should go for. And I think Eddie Howe would turn him round, and get the best out of him.
Yeah.
Jordy, Chris, I'll come to you. Obviously, they've given their accounts of Harvey Barnes. 13 goal contributions this season, 12 goals, 1 assist in a team that's sitting 19th in the league, coming off the left. Would you take him at Newcastle?
Do you know what's always put me off Harvey Barnes? I think, like Ash has already alluded to it, like the inconsistency. And I remember when we were first linked with him, there was talks like 70 million. And I was thinking, it's not for me that. I mean, if Harvey Barnes was in like the 30, 40 million bracket, I'd probably be more interested. But, I've seen moments of brilliance from him. But then equally, as Ash has said, there's been games where like, I don't even know he's on the pitch. And I suppose that worries me a little bit. Yes, if under Eddie Howe, he might be improved. And yes, in a better playing team at the time, or a team more informed, then yeah, he could shine. I mean, I'm a bit worried with now Chris and Ash have been talking about Maddison. I'm a little bit more worried about Maddison now, and I'm thinking, oh, is he right? I've had my small doubts over Maddison purely for the intensity. I don't see the intensity, but Pete, when we've spoke about him, and you've said technically he would be, he's got that moment of brilliance in him, and that's what we lack, especially in the midfield. We really, really lack that.
You don't want to show pony, though. You don't want to show pony.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Chris, because that me and Jordy Chris have talked about it. You're going to be known as Jordy Chris from now on. I'm going to stick to
Jordy Chris.
To be fair, we've talked about this before, and the one thing I've always maintained about Maddison, I know we're talking about Harvey Barnes, but with regards to Maddison, is that we do need a player that creates in our team. We've got the intensity. Joe Linton, Willock, they provide the intensity like all the time. Miggy, Murphy, when he comes on and does a job. We need to find a balance between intensity and quality, because sometimes in games the intensity is great, but when we need to break down teams, we need quality. And I'm not saying that Maddison's going to come in and automatically take one of their places, but what he will do in certain games in this season. So we look at, I think we've drew 11, 12 games this season. And that's down to not breaking teams down due to a lack of quality. If we had a Maddison, not necessarily Maddison, but a Maddison type player, those 11, 12 games turn into 5 or 6. And actually, if you turn those draws into wins, we're on the title tilt this season. And that's just me being honest. You look at our table and you take our 11, 12 draws and you make it 5 or 6 and you turn those into wins, we're on a title tilt. And that's a completely different outlook of this season. And that's why I think, in my perspective, we do need creativity. He might not give you the intensity and the runaround that these other guys give. It will give you moments that will make the difference in the game. And you look at Maddison. Someone else put it in the chat. He scored 10 goals, 9 assists or something this season for you guys. He's although he in your eyes, Chris, he is a bit of a show pony, and I get that, because you're in a team that isn't performing well. I would take that Maddison all day in Newcastle, because if he could take that from Leicester and bring that to Newcastle, that would make the difference for us. If that makes sense. I don't. It might not make no sense.
I think what I would say to you is the James Maddison of a few years ago, or even last season, got into the England squad. Yes, the James Maddison as he is now, no. You'd be better off re-signing Chris Wood.
Wow, that's a big statement. That.
Yes, I got it in. I promised somebody I'd get that in.
That is a big statement. But look, let's hold that talk, because we've got 340 plus in the chat. If you haven't liked and subscribed to this channel and this particular show right now, you're mad, because Ash, Chris, Jordy, Chris, this has been a fantastic chat already about so many different aspects about Newcastle and Leicester. And we haven't even gotten to the game, but we are going to get onto the game right now. And the only way we do when we get on to talking about the game in a little bit of detail is we start with looking at a few stats.
Evening, lads.
And like magic, he appears. Double O Stato, the Doctor Doom, Jaws, whichever Bond villain you want to give him the title to. Here he is. Keith Roll, how you doing?
Galore.
Yeah, throw it in there. Whichever Bond villain you want to give him the title to. But Keith, it's great to have you. How are you? And what stats have we got for us this week?
Yeah, well, thanks. Got loads of stats here on Newcastle and Leicester. Head-to-head stats, manager stats, player stats, general stats to round off. Newcastle's record in this fixture since 94-95 in the Premier League, played 33, won 15, drawn 6 and lost 12. So slight advantage to Newcastle in this fixture. Until the last season, I mean, this next stat heavily weighted towards Leicester in favour of Leicester until when Leicester were more of a European side. Newcastle have lost 11 of their last 17 games against Leicester in all competitions since 2014. Newcastle have got a better recent record away from home at Leicester at the King Power Stadium with 4 wins and 4 defeats than at St James's Park. They did get the 1 win last season, the extra time winner, but there were 5 defeats up to that point, where Leicester were a Champions League side, and when they were going for when they won the title and when they were in Europe. Moving on to the manager stats, Eddie Howe, his record in games he's managed against Leicester. This is heavily weighted towards his Bournemouth days. He's managed 21 games, won 6, drawn 6, and he's lost 8. But Eddie Howe has never lost a home Premier League match against Leicester City. He's won 4 and he's drawn 2. Dean Smith, his record in games he's managed against Newcastle United, he's managed 9 games. He's won 3, he's drawn 3, and he's lost 3. So he's averaging just over a point a game in matches against Newcastle. This fixture has produced a lot of goals, 88 in total in league fixtures since the 94-95 season, 48 for Leicester, 40 for Newcastle. There's only been 3 0-0 draws in 33 games since 94-95 season. The last draw in this fixture, you've got to go back to 2003-2004 season, which, you know, near enough 20 years there, when Newcastle were last sort of around the Champions League places. Leicester, they've got the better defensive record in this fixture, going back to 94-95, 11 clean sheets compared to Newcastle's 8 clean sheets. Most common goal scorers for Leicester against Newcastle in recent years has been Jamie Vardy with 5 goals and James Maddison with 4. Moving on to a few more on the players. The top goal scorers for Leicester this season, Harvey Barnes, just discussed earlier in the show, 12 goals in 38 games, and James Maddison with 10 in 30 games for Leicester. Callum Wilson, he scored 4 goals and made 2 goal scoring assists in 11 games against Leicester City. And Callum Wilson has scored 11 league goals since April. No player in Europe's top 5 leagues has scored more goals in recent times. The goalkeepers, Nick Pope, he's got 13 clean sheets this season compared to Danny Ward's 6 clean sheets for Leicester City. And a few general stats to round off. Newcastle United have won their final home league game in 7 of the past 9 seasons, with the exceptions being defeats against Liverpool in 2018-19 season and in the 2019-20 season. So Liverpool are the only team to beat Newcastle at St James's Park in the final home game of the season. Leicester have lost 3 of their past 4 Premier League matches against Newcastle. They've won 1 and touched on earlier there, more than they had in their previous 10, which again had a great record from 2014 up to last year against Newcastle. Leicester have conceded 41 away league goals in 2022-2023 season, and that's the most since they let in 44 away goals in the 2010-11 Championship season, and in a 38 game season, it's the most that they've conceded since going back to 1914 and 1915, when they conceded 47 goals. So that's the scale of the problem there for Leicester this season. And even if Newcastle lose both of their remaining games, they'll still finish the season with a new record of the fewest defeats in a top flight season in their entire history. So that tops anything Keegan did or anybody had in recent times, in the scale of a 131-year history. Leicester, they've just had the 1 win in 14 league games, 1 win, 3 draws, and 10 defeats, which just goes to show the scale of the problem in the second half of the season. If you look back to the first part of the season, Leicester had a couple of away wins. They had some impressive away wins at Everton and West Ham, and they haven't had an away win since the start of February when they beat Aston Villa 4-2. And that is the end of the stats for tonight.
Thank
Top
God.
Very good, then, mate. Very good.
Thank you
Top
very much.
stats as always, Keith. Always on point and always a balanced perspective with regards to both teams. Absolutely spot on. And look, let's develop that very, very slightly and look at the tactics board, because I put a team out for both Leicester and Newcastle. You might disagree with that from a Leicester perspective. Let me know if you'd make any changes or you expect any players in that Leicester team to be any different. But this is what the teams that we've gone for. So, Chris, Ash, from your perspective, this is the team that started the last game. Do you expect any changes? But equally, and I'll come to you, Chris, first on this. Where do you think Leicester are going to make the difference and maybe cause the problems in certain areas for Newcastle on Monday?
We're going to see changes because he's not kept the same team 2 matches running due to injuries and just personal choice since he arrived. I think the formation will go is 8-1-1 and keep you guys out. For me, I wouldn't have Ndidi in there. I wouldn't have Tielemans in there. I wouldn't have Maddison in there. I wouldn't have Castagna in there. Apart from that, it's a good team.
Why Castagna?
Castagna is
He's had a horrible season.
All he's wanted to do is be up FaZe's arse for the last few games. The guy is, if he's playing on the left or the right, he is a wing back. But he's got this that he has to come into the box and be a centre back, which leaves your guys to come down either wing, whichever wing he's playing on, completely unmarked. The number of goals that we have conceded because of that this season is frightening. Again, another player that was good, and he occasionally things, but for me, if he was to leave at the end of the season, I wouldn't be sorry, because like I say, I think he does not do his defensive duties, and he is supposed to be a defender. But I've gone 5-3-2. That's the way that I would go for the game.
Yeah, Ash, would you do you agree with Chris, or would you do or put your team differently? And where do you think you can maybe make the difference?
I think, like we touched on earlier, I think it would be brave to do it, and it's not going to happen. But I'd take Tielemans out the team
Yeah.
and probably Madison and give
Yes.
Pratt a go. And what about Mendy? Where is he?
Exactly.
Where is
Exactly.
he?
Yeah. You're
He's
my
one of the
brother
only-
from another mother.
Yeah,
we can see this. Why can't the bloody managers?
yeah, literally.
It's Mendy instead of Tielemans.
I would, yeah,
And you're going Pratt instead of
yeah.
Madison.
And let's see if that team can put a bit of fighting spirit in. And if we come away with a fighting performance and a loss, you're happy. You know what I mean? If you come away with two of your star players shrugging the shoulders and they're getting on the team sheet all the time, there lies the problem. So fortune favours the brave, Pete, and I think that's what Dean Smith needs to do and show these guys that they're not untouchable. They're going anyway, aren't they? So we don't.
Excellent points, boys. Excellent points. I think you make some great points, and 2 or 3, maybe even 4 changes in there as well. Chris, Keith, I'll come to you guys. This is the team that I've gone for. It's not too dissimilar to what we've seen. The only real difference is that Willett looks like he's out for the season, and I've moved him to the injured section. But I put Anderson in there in that midfield 3. Isak and Wilson start. Whether people agree with it or not, it certainly worked against Brighton. Longstaff I've kept in the squad. But it could well be that he joins the injury table because he hasn't yet trained in anticipation for the game. Do you agree with that starting lineup? Would you change anything, Chris? And where do you see us making the difference against Leicester?
So I totally agree with the starting lineup, Pete. I think that's how we have to line up, given the fact that Willock's probably going to be out, or Willoquinho. So yeah, I completely agree with the starting 11. In terms of where we can win the game, I'm going to quote Leicester Chris now and say, how long have you got? Because for me, I just think all over the pitch, I think we're going to cause some problems. If you're going to push me on where I think most, I would probably say Wilson, because if how you pronounce it, lads, could be wrong. Like he's got a mistake in him. Every time I watch him play, I just think, oh God.
Around here.
Reminds me of a worse version of David Luiz. And at times, David Luiz could look sublime. I've yet fast look, the real part. I think having Johnny Evans is really back is really good for yourselves. But again, he was out for a long period, wasn't he? So I don't know how match fit he is.
Great point.
Ash, can you see Chris Wood at all anywhere on there?
No.
Thankfully, we nearly got the best pot of 20 million for him. So, he's at Forest and he's out injured for the season. So, we and Chris already know this, and Keith know this, but they agreed to do the deal after 3 appearances, which is baffling for me.
Wow.
And then I think he got injured on appearance 5. And he's out for the season, so we still take the money, Chris. No Wood anywhere. Sorry, Chris, carry on.
No, you're fine, mate. I mean, I suppose I'm gonna go away from us for a second and go towards Leicester. The only I'm kind of contradicting what I said before, but
I'll put the original team back on 1 second. Go for it.
Yeah, no. The only other thing I could see really is Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes, he's got that pace that we were talking about, but again, it's whether Harvey Barnes is going to turn up. This is the problem. Because I look at the Leicester midfield, and I personally, lads, I'm not going to lie, I hope Tielemans starts. And based on what you've been saying about Maddison, I hope Maddison starts. Because if he only gives 50, 60, 70%, our boys are going to be going all out for it. I've got to be honest.
That battle there. Joe Linton against Fulham. That's what we want. We talked about this privately, separately away from here. Like well, you said it as well. Like it's Joe Linton against Tielemans. It's a mismatch. Like the guy is on fire at the moment. He's playing so well. That's what
Yeah.
we want.
It is. No, you're absolutely right. And this is the problem with the midfield, isn't it? And even then, you've got Elliot Anderson, full of energy, eager to impress. I think I said on our last show, this is a great opportunity for Elliot Anderson because he's going to come up against the Leicester side who are low on confidence. He's going to be bubbling, full of energy. And then he's also got an opportunity to play at Stamford Bridge last game of the season as well. So it's a great learning opportunity for Elliot Anderson. And Sumare, he's going to be in for he's going to be in for a tough evening. I really believe that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. And as I say, I'm trying to be positive for you boys because I know that really, if you got a point, it'd be a fantastic point for yourselves. It would also ensure that we get Champions League football. But I just struggle to see anything but a Newcastle win. I've got to be honest.
You know what though, Ash? Football's a funny game, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
That's
It
the
is.
only.
It is.
Just be so Leicester to actually go and win this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be.
Yeah.
And I did say at the start, 2 seasons ago we're in reverse positions, and all the Newcastle fans were saying, "Oh, Leicester are going to batter us, and we'll let you win 4-0." So just remember that.
Yeah.
Just remember what
It's
we
true.
did for you that day.
It's true. Yeah, it is true.
It is absolutely true. Keith, from your perspective, just to add on to what Jordy Chris has said, is there anywhere in particular that you can see that we can take advantage of and we can make the difference with that current lineup in there for both teams?
Yeah, I'd agree with Chris Hall's comments about Wilson. Absolutely on fire at the minute. Those most informed striker in Europe, really. So I think an attack, that's going to be the difference. Vardy over the years, he's been sensational, but is this a season too far for him now? There might be one last stand from Vardy tomorrow night, but on current form, you would have to say that Newcastle have got the edge there in attack in tomorrow's game, and also in the midfield there with Bruno. Bruno again coming into form on Thursday night there. Some intriguing battles there in midfield, but I still think obviously Newcastle have the edge there as well with Bruno. And on your other question there as well earlier, again, that's probably Newcastle's best lineup. I think, Isak and sort of Wilson did work on Thursday. I was skeptical beforehand, but they did work on Thursday, played well together. So Howe doesn't seem to change the lineups. I would go with that as well.
No, great points as well. And yeah, I'm inclined to agree. There's lots of different little intricacies that could make the difference within the game. And look, Steve Smart, Leicester City fan, has put, I would play 3 at the back, Evans, Suter, and a face with Castagna and Pereira as wing backs, Mendy and Maddison, and Pratt with Barnes and Vardy up front. So a different type of formation there from Steve Smart, and welcome Steve to the channel as well. And I think that's an interesting point too. What I will add to that is what obviously Chris has talked about the Joelinton Tillemans situation. I have to be honest. I massively rate Pereira. I think his ACL injury has halted his career. He is a superb right back, and he has the opportunity to cause problems down this side. What I will say is that I'm looking at this. Miguel Almiron was, for me, arguably my man of the match, and him and Wilson were unbelievable against Brighton. And the way you talked about Castagna and the way and what he did to Thomas in the game on Boxing Day, he destroyed him. Like
it'll be Christensen though, so
yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm not putting him on there, but it could well be the same. But he is full of confidence right now, in that I do think that Miguel Almiron after Thursday could well be the difference down this side. That's for sure. But
and let's not forget that this is actually Jamie Vardy's anniversary match. 18th of May, 11 years ago, he signed for us.
wow.
Oh.
So it goes on to the point. So we had Undav, who cut through this centre back pairing and scored against us on Thursday. I'm not saying it's going to happen again, but what we need to do is be very, very careful. And Chris, you talked about it on the review show. Is that ball through the middle of the centre back pairing? We need to be able to stop that. So either Shaw or Botman needs to come across to stop Vardy. To be fair, I think we've handled Vardy relatively well when we've played against him before, but we need to be sharp to that because Vardy, as we know over the years, has always got the opportunity to cause problems. So we do need to be, intelligent and switched on to the fact of that. But they're the ones that we need to worry about. I do think Trippier, how he handled Matoma on Thursday, has got the ability to handle Barnes. Although Barnes is a very talented player, but there are just a few things that I think we need to keep an eye on from a Leicester perspective. But there are lots of positives of where we can win the game for sure. And we've not even talked about Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak has got the ability to cause crazy amounts of problems, and him and Joe Linton down that left hand side, I think, will be a big problem. That's for sure. So looking at the teams from that perspective, there are just a couple of things that we think that could be the difference with regards to tactics. Now, Chris, I think there's a few questions before we go to predictions that you want to throw maybe to Ash and Chris.
Absolutely. Just before I do that, big thank you to John Elliott for the donation. Thank you very much, John. John says, hopefully Leicester don't get stuck in the Championship as it's a hard league to get out of, which we know all about. While yous are down there, stuff the Mackhams for us and good luck.
Come on.
Nice comment.
If it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, yeah, we've had some really interesting questions here. This is a really good one from Alan Thompson. Started this one earlier. He says, lads, did you find when you won the title that players you bought on higher wages after that caused problems in the squad as players who were there but on less money? It's an interesting question because you guys elevated really, really, really quickly. And was that something you found difficult with the balance? Are you struggling with it now?
To be honest, I think after the title win, the players that come in were sort of like Slimani and Musa, wasn't it? It was those kind of signings.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them are gone, to be honest with you. But yeah, probably not, because I think automatically that's when the players were starting to be handed contracts, obviously, other than Kante, who left. We kept hold of Mahrez for a couple of seasons and we were trying to offer them bumper contracts, but I don't think that was the problem. I just think we'd gone from one of the most miraculous sporting stories into a season where you try and follow it up with more fixtures and not as much squad depth. I think that was the issue more than the wage buffer with the players. I don't know what Chris thinks, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I just think the players we bought weren't up to it, were they?
No.
Like you said, I mean, we bought Musa as a striker and then always played him on the right. Slimani we bought and never got he never played to his strengths. We suddenly found that we'd gone from shopping in Aldi, we were finding ourselves in Waitrose, and we were just going, oh, that looks nice, and oh, that looks nice. So I don't know whether it caused problems because, like you say, the players that were there got huge wage increases anyway, new BMWs and what have you. But I just think that the players we bought weren't any good, to be honest with you.
Michael Pomar asks, did Iosi go permanently or was it just a loan to Spain?
He's on loan. But when Rodgers was still here, he did say in a press conference that it will probably be the last game you'd see him in a Leicester City shirt. Whether that changes now?
His
contract's up at the end of this season.
Oh, there we go then. Yeah, he'll be gone then.
So he ain't coming back.
I tell you what, Chris Keith, it's a little bit like Kieran Clark for us. He went on loan to Sheffield United, but his contract's out in the summer, so we won't see him back. Like, he's gone. Like, he won't see him back at the club. But it's almost like they paid his wages for his last season at the club, kind of thing.
And that is the point as well, Newcastle. You owe us for taking him off your hands. So again, you can let us get a minimum of a point for that.
Yeah, 30 million. Thank you very, very much for the pleasure.
That was another decision by the bell end.
What we on now? What we on? 5? We're on 8.
7. Are we 8?
8.
Are we 8? Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, Mike Ashley had a 30 million release clause in his contract, and that's what he had to sign.
Wow.
To get out of it. Now, bearing in mind, and Chris and Keith will know, we signed him for 1.5 million from Tenerife to then get 30 million for him, and we were like, I don't know about. To be fair, we didn't know each other at the time. I was gutted personally when he went. I don't know about you, Chris or Keith, about when he went.
Well, when I say I wasn't gutted, that's probably over-egging it a touch, but I wasn't devastated because I thought he's not worth 30 million. If we'd have sold him for like 10 million, I'd have been fuming because he is a half decent player. But as soon as he said it was 30 million, I thought, wow,
I think
that's.
Perez was always a good good half season player, like in the sort of like the January, sort of February time. Before that, he would get a goal in the first half, and then the second half he would come alive and you put a run together. I think in his sort of last 2 seasons for Newcastle, he got something like, I think 10 or 11, and then 13 goals the following season. So it was, to me, there was a disappointment that would let him go at the time, and you'll know what it was like at the time, lads. It was like, he's let another player go. We haven't signed Rondon. Who's going to score the goals for next season? There was always that fear and worry, and it was like, we're not signed a striker yet. And it would always last minute. So that's the mentality of the club at the time under the previous ownership.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair to say, mate. We've got a comment here from Steve Smart, LCFC. Steve, thanks very much for tuning in, mate. Really appreciate it. And I love this comment. I love it. He said, "We are awful, but it's in our own hands again. We win both of our games to stay up. To be honest, I didn't see that, so keep the faith."
We used to have there was a thing, wasn't there? Hashtag fearless when we won the league. It's now been changed apparently to hashtag gutless.
Yeah.
I don't think that's officially been changed to that.
It's how they've been this season, and I agree. It is in our own hands. The results this weekend have blessed us a little bit, especially with the Everton one. Really surprised me. I was just expecting Everton to go and beat Wolves, and then it pretty much all she wrote. But it is in our hands. If we can pull off a miracle tomorrow and beat West Ham at home, then we're safe. But nah, it's not going to happen. Not if we put in the performances that we have done in the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's just not going to happen.
Michael Pomar says, lads, who will be the new Leicester manager next season? Personally, whatever division you're playing in, Graham Potter would be a fantastic appointment.
Great question.
Yeah, Potter's not going to come to us if we're in the Championship, and I don't think, to be honest with you, if we stay up, would he come to Leicester? I think we are that toxic at the moment that he would get a better job than Leicester. It's as simple as that at the moment. Yeah. If we go down, I think I said earlier, we're being linked with the guy at Swansea, but again to a Southampton. We're being linked with, is it Thomason or somebody at Blackburn?
Ex-Newcastle striker John Thomason.
Yeah. But what's he done? I would not be against, if we go down, Dean Smith, Shakespeare and Terry, if they all stay.
Me too.
No. God's sake, no! Jesus.
He got us out of the Championship.
He took you down to the Championship as well, didn't he?
He didn't. We were
already done before Rafa took charge. The damage was long.
McLaren took it down.
He was at the wheel when you went down. He was at the wheel, but okay, look, he brought you back up. But again, oh no, look at Everton. I mean, Jesus Christ!
Wrong appointment.
Back.
Toxic appointment. He should never have done Everton.
Never.
No, he should never come to Leicester. Hopefully.
Okay, well, I'll give you an alternative then. From Geordie Team for Life.
No.
Well,
No.
come on. Which one?
Chris, we're just being bantered here now, aren't we?
I think we are. I think we are.
Things are
Yeah.
bad enough.
Honestly though,
Scott Parker. What about him? There's no Scott Parker
What do you
in.
think, Ollie at Leicester?
Solskjaer?
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Why not?
Hold on. Oh no, hold on a second.
Ollie's at the wheel.
Ash, Chris, come on. Right.
No,
You're seriously considering Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Okay. He got Champions League football. He got Champions League football 2 seasons for Man United.
What?
He did better than
Benitez
Wreck-It Ralph.
won the Champions League.
Sorry?
Rafa Benitez won the Champions League.
I know what you're saying. It's just the Everton thing, isn't it?
In Ollie's defence, he was one penalty kick away from winning the Europa League for Man United. In Ollie's defence.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I'm sorry. You can say, like I say, no, I'm sorry. But Ollie, why not? Because let me take you back to Ranieri. Do you remember how people took the piss out of us? No, he wouldn't have done. He would not have done. No, he would not have done. Did he kick you up?
He
It was
got
too
it.
late for us. It was
Okay,
too late for us.
When you went down that season, how many games did Rafa have?
What did he have? Did he
Was
have
it 8?
8?
It was 10.
So that was more games.
10.
So he had more games than Dean Smith has had or be having at Leicester, and yet he couldn't keep you up. So where does the maths come out that he would keep us up?
Yeah, but we had Mike Ashley. I'll throw that out there.
I'll stick to my point that I don't think Pep Guardiola would have kept us up this season.
No. And in
The
regards
players
to
have shot
Ollie,
it.
right? Everybody laughed at Ranieri. We do not want. We know we're not going to get a manager that's going to come in and win. And when Ranieri came in, they're saying, "Oh, he's never won a title." Well, we weren't even looking for a title. If they'd got us to, if he'd got us to 5th or 6th that season, we'd have been happy, wouldn't we, Ash?
Yeah, $1,000,000%.
We never thought he was going to go and bloody win the thing.
No.
There's that meme that goes around, that awkward moment when you're trying to avoid relegation and win the Premier League. It's true.
Last for our question here is, but Ollie got Cardiff relegated, don't forget. So you want Ollie, got them relegated.
I would take Ollie. Back me up here, Ash. I would take Ollie. No, I would not have Gerrard. I would take Ollie over Rafa.
I think I would, to be honest.
Wow.
I think I would.
That's fair play. Big statements there. Absolutely.
And the thing with Gerrard is, I spent New Year's Eve, so I was drunk, so I might not have the story totally right, but I spent with New Year's Eve with a Scotsman who happens to be a Rangers fan. And he said that Gerrard was bloody awful, that he was not the guy behind the success at Rangers, he was his number 2.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. What's the guy's name? Is it BT or something? Beale, that's it, yeah.
That's it, yeah. And then it was him that was doing the good work. And basically, Gerrard was just a front. And look, what did he do at Aston Villa? Don't know. But I don't see, we have to accept that managers, like I said earlier, they have a sell-by date. Ranieri did it great for a year. Rodgers did it great for 2-3 seasons, but there comes a point when they get stale. Rafa, he's got stale. He's not just past his sell-by date; he's past his use-by date.
Oh, God. That's a big statement.
And I know you guys love him. Of course you do.
Yeah.
I love Ranieri, but I wouldn't have him back. And I wouldn't say to you, go and get him. Oh, it's like me saying to you, get rid of Eddie Howe and take Brendan Rodgers because he won the FA Cup. What's Eddie Howe won? Nothing. Take Brendan Rodgers. He won us the FA Cup. You're laughing at us. But it's only the same as you saying to us, take Rafa.
No, I'm not laughing at you at all. To be fair.
You would if you would. Inside, you're saying Rodgers.
No, not at all. To be fair, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying it will happen. I wouldn't be surprised for Brendan Rodgers to go and manage someone like Tottenham.
Oh, I hope so.
I think he's going to get that job.
And the reason why he'll get the job is because, although things went flat for Leicester, he's always been talked about for any club that he's been at, whether it's Swansea, Liverpool, Celtic or Leicester is always talked about as being a good coach on the training ground. And Chris, I know you're shaking your head, but ex-players that have played under him have said as much.
You know, we
Leicester
had more
probably won't
injuries.
say that now, but
We had more injuries, didn't we, Ash, from the training pitch?
Yeah.
It was like we had Harold Shipman at our training place. We had
Yeah.
that many bloody injuries.
It's cursed, that place, since we've moved there.
Harold Shipman.
So, you know, there's no way that Brendan... Look, his reputation, he won nothing at Liverpool. He won a few things at Celtic because Rangers weren't in the division for most of that time. And any one of the five of us here could have gone to Celtic and won the bloody league that time. It was so easy. I would love, I don't know about you, Ash, it would be lovely to see Rodgers go to Tottenham. They deserve him.
He's gonna get that job. I think. I really do think that they're gonna go for him because they're struggling to get the people that they're sniffing around, aren't they? Spurs. So, yeah.
Oh please! It'd be brilliant to see him go to Spurs and cock it up at Spurs.
I've got four more questions here for you boys. And apologies if I haven't got to everyone's questions. I do apologise. Oh, tell you what, let's call it five. Right, so we touched on him earlier, but Michael Pomar asked, what happened to Pereira? He was a world-class right-back. What happened to him? I've got a feeling Chris is going to answer this for me. But go on, Chris. What happened to Pereira?
Oh, mate, injuries.
Oh, injury. I thought you were going to say that.
No, that's Castagna. Pereira, better than Castagna in my eyes. But no, he's just been unlucky with injuries.
Yeah.
And because of the way we had it last season, we were having to play players that were not fit to play. They were on the way back, but they're in that what they call that red zone, I think. And they shouldn't really have been playing, but we had no other options but to play them. So as soon as he came back, he got injured again. I think he is I hope we keep hold of him. I think he's on a longer contract, Ash. But to me, that's what I'd say with Pereira.
Yep. Imagine seeing him and Justin in the championship. It'll be sad, but him and Justin playing down each side in the championship.
Yes. I forget Justin. I forget about James.
It's unreal. He's such a good player.
We may lose him though.
On the Mag NUFC with I think I mentioned it to the boys. I don't know if you were there, Chris, on the show. I mentioned about the potential of us signing someone like Justin as an alternative to Kieran Trippier.
Yeah.
You just want to buy the club? We'll be a finger club for you.
It was an option that you talked about, but I didn't know why Justin had been missing for so long, because he has missed a huge chunk of your season.
Injuries,
What is the injury though? What is the injury?
I think it's an ACL, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that changes things then, because ACLs are kind of career changers.
Yeah. So we just got to hope he comes back and is the same player when next season. But what better chance than, I know it sounds sad, but in the championship to get firing again and get the confidence up.
Yeah.
He's looked good though, hasn't he, Ash?
He's what, sorry?
He's looked good.
Oh, yeah.
Since he's come back,
Kevin Young's already caught on to it. Howard Shipman. I can't believe it. I never ever thought there'd be a Loaded Back NUFC show that Howard Shipman would be mentioned. But
I'm available for parties, bar mitzvahs, funerals.
Oh God. This is it. And I've got a couple here actually for Michael Pomar. Michael Pomar asks, did you expect this season going how it did, and were the signs there in pre-season?
For me personally, my alarm bells were ringing when I seen that Kasper Schmeichel had gone. Yeah. That then made me think that something wasn't quite right behind the scenes, because he's always been one of the strongest characters in the dressing room. All right, we had a stinking season with set pieces last season, with corners and everything, and there were major issues, and obviously something went wrong for him to leave. But that's when my alarm bells were ringing, because I thought, we've not replaced him, And I knew we'd be in the bottom half of the table. Never did I expect it to be a relegation season, but I knew we wouldn't be there or thereabouts like we have been the last few seasons. But I just thought we'd probably finish like 14th, 13th, something like that. But no, not this bad. And the signs were there.
What about you, Chris?
Basically what he said.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, we've got one from Shane Mawson, our resident Aussie. He said, question for the lads. I'm always keen on fellow Aussies. What are your opinions on Sutar? Need him around next season if you go down?
I like him. It was one of Brendan Rodgers' classic. We had to drop him because he was tired. And yet he's just come from the Championship where you're playing 2 games most weeks. So how come he's tired? It's like, on the opening day of the season against Southampton, it was too hot. It was too hot for the players. And yet he only made 2 or 3 substitutions out of the 5. Or the classic one as well was when we played Southampton. He went like, "Well, we've got the most inexperienced, the squad," and yet the Southampton squad at that point was the youngest we'd ever played in the in the Premier League. Sutar, I mean, let's be honest with you, he knows the division. All right, Dean Smith has come in, and that's been a bit unfortunate for him because he's kind of. Well, he brought Soyuncu back, didn't he? And Soyuncu just sort of was amazing when he came back. And you've got to, I think, for me, I like Johnny Evans. A lot of players don't, but I think he's got that experience, that wise head on him. And I feel a bit sorry for Sutar, but definitely I think he's going to be a good... He's Harry Maguire Mark 2, really, isn't he, Ash?
Yep, he's exactly that. And I think, again, what better grounds to build some confidence next season if we do go down, which is looking probable, to become one of those solid starters in the lineup, build some confidence, start playing out the back because he's got the potential, knocking some lovely balls forward, and let's get some confidence up with these players in some hopefully winnable games next season.
Yes.
This question's from our resident spanner, Lisa Mole. Lisa, this I've got. This does make me laugh. This question because this feels like a dagger in the heart, Lisa. I'm not going to lie, but I will ask the question. Are either of you at St James's Park tomorrow? Wolflags have an amazing display planned, so it should be mint. I don't know whether you boys are looking forward to the display. I've got to be honest.
No, I'm not there tomorrow. If I'm being 100% honest, I've had my gut full of misery on away days this season, and I know what's coming.
I live just outside Bournemouth. It's a bit of for a Monday night game. I won't be back till about Thursday. So, and to be honest with you, I suffer from vertigo, so I could never come and visit Newcastle, where you put the away fans.
No, you don't want to walk
It's
up
high.
Mount Everest.
No,
It's high.
be knackered, mate. Knackered. And yeah, this is the last question I'm going to ask you, lads. Again from Michael Perlmar. I really like this one. Question for Ash and Chris: who do you rebuild the team around, assuming, of course, Maddison leaves? So who would you say is that one player who you definitely want playing for you next season, and you think he's going to be the catalyst if you do go down, or even if you stay up?
Yep.
Who's the one player who you go, that's the guy that we need to build the team around?
For me, in the Championship, I think Dewsbury Hall.
It's a good shot.
Personally.
100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Future captain.
Yeah.
Local lad. He shows more bottle than the rest of the players put together. Yeah, I agree 100%, Ash.
Very good, boys.
A couple of questions just to finish off from a Newcastle perspective. He has just joined the chat, and welcome to the channel. If you're not subscribed already, please do so. I have a question: why isn't Ryan Fraser playing anymore? Geordie, Chris, can you answer that question?
So Ryan Fraser isn't playing anymore because I believe, I don't know this for fact, but I believe there's been a little bit of a fallout behind the scenes. Eddie Howe came out and said that Ryan Fraser has been demoted to the under-21 squad, and Eddie Howe, when asked whether Ryan Fraser would be involved again, was quite blunt and said no, he's no longer part of the first team squad, and he doesn't believe that he will be having any kind of future at Newcastle. So I think he will be one of the first players out the door come the summer.
Yeah, I would agree. And Michael Palmer has put a question to me and you, Chris, but I'm going to ask this to Keith. How will you celebrate if we get the job done tomorrow night? How are you going to celebrate, Keith?
Hashtag cans, maybe. It'll be a good one. You know, a long time since we've had that. Well, but absolutely. It'll just be crazy, won't it? Especially on a Monday, the start of the week. What a start of week it would be. You know, a win or a point, and Newcastle get Champions League.
Absolutely.
Quality. And James Matthew photography has put. I think he's put a few things in there. It's happening. He's already singing the Champions League music that's already out there. I feel having a tear in my eye when it happens, and equally he's put. And I'm not working on the Tuesday just in case I need to recover. I think there'll be a lot of Newcastle fans that will be in that position if we get the win. But great questions in the chat as always. Absolutely superb. And Chris Hall with that Champions League music, he's always going to throw it out there. Of course he was going to.
It's so overrated. It's all about the championship. Not the Champions League. It's all about the championship. Champions League's so overrated.
We need to put it out there that the championship needs to have some music. They need to have some music to welcome their players out. That's what we need to do.
Enjoy it, lads. Enjoy it. It's great feeling.
But you
Thank
guys
you, mate.
are there. You
Thank
guys,
you, mate.
at a lot of stages, you've been there and you've heard that music a lot more recently than we have. So you know what it means.
Hairs on the back of the necktie, wasn't it, Ash?
Magical, absolutely magical. And I can't imagine how well Newcastle are going to do it.
Yeah, there's actually been some talk about whether we're going to play the music if we do get the win. On Monday night. So it's one of those.
You up for a fall, that though, isn't it?
What's that?
That's putting you up for a fall.
Yeah, look, whether it's true or not, it's up to debate. We don't really know, but I think just to be in that conversation is amazing. And Chris has mentioned as well. Thank you to James Mitch to join us.
Thank you, James.
Chris, Geordie Chris has got some fantastic prize draws in the works. So for all members of Loaded Mag NUFC, if you're not a member, make sure you are, because there's a few things coming up right now. And I want to end just before we wrap up the show. Massive thanks to everyone that's in the chat. We've had 240 plus watching the show tonight. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do as well. And thank you all for watching. Loads of comments in the chat tonight, but like it just before you head off in the next 5 minutes or so, and make sure you subscribe to Loaded Mag NUFC. Guys, I'm going to end this by getting predictions for us all. Chris Hall, we'll start with you. What is your prediction for tomorrow night? Come around 10 o'clock on Monday evening. What do you think the score's going to be?
Well, it seems impossible for us to keep a clean sheet these days. So I personally, I'm gonna go with 4-1. I think we'll win 4-1.
4-1. Okay, big score. Chris, from Leicester, Chris, shall we say? What do you think the score prediction is going to be from your perspective, from a Leicester fan's perspective?
Well, I've gone for this score in my prediction league, and got more hope of me getting 3 points than I have of Leicester. So I'm going to go with my head, not with my heart, and I've gone 3-1 to Newcastle.
Okay, 3-1 to Newcastle. Ash, I'll come to you as well. From a Leicester perspective, what do you think the score is going to be after tomorrow night?
3-1 Newcastle.
Wow, you guys are definitely on the same page as Leicester fans, that's for sure. 3-1 Newcastle. Go
Sorry, just to nip in here. Mark Taylor asked earlier, he said, Ash is an absolute gentleman, and I have hated seeing his stress over the last few months. Question to Ash, are you on Twitter? Sorry, I should have asked that before.
Yes, it's just at @Ash_Oceans Apart.
Yeah. If you go to, I think I put a tweet out earlier for the show. I tagged Ash in to that, so you'll see
great.
his Twitter handle on the back of that. So if anyone's not following Ash, and if anyone's not following Chris at Leicester Till I Die, both channels are on, both tags are on there. Get involved and follow both. That's for sure. No problem at all. I'm gonna go Newcastle to win 2-0. I think it's about time we got a clean sheet, and I think that some people are saying it's going to be a crazy score. I don't believe it will be, but I think that we'll get the job done, and it'll be a 2-0 scoreline. And it brings me to our final predictions, and of course we always make a meal of this, and we some people call him Splinter because he sits on the fence. Some people call him Dr. Doom because he's always relatively negative with regards to his comments. But actually, from our perspective, more recently he's been known as the Predictor because he and Chris know him as actually hitting the mark with his predictions recently, and he said so. So the new one in their camp is he is the Predictor. So Keith, what is your prediction tomorrow night? Go for it.
It's like Jaws, that, isn't it? A bit, you know.
Oh,
Jaws 6.
We've got Jaws. Jaws is there.
The other one, the shark.
This is the only Jaws we've got.
Yeah, just to add to Pete's point there, I did call out on Thursday's show that Liverpool, Aston Villa at Anfield would probably be a 1-1 draw. Could be a 1-1 draw, and
He said it
yesterday. I think on tomorrow night, I think it's going to be a lot closer than Brighton. Leicester are fighting for their lives. They realise they've got a chance, you know. I do feel, though, on Thursday night, especially after Liverpool dropping the points, that I'm feeling quite positive and Newcastle could actually get a result. It could, you know, I think Newcastle could win it, edge it just narrowly. I think, you know, alluding to what I was saying in the earlier team predictions, Vardy might have a say in it, you know, because I think there's still probably a bit of fire there. Could be something like a 2-1 maybe, backing up what Chris Hall was saying there, that Newcastle kind of seem to keep a clean sheet at the moment and are vulnerable to that long through ball, so it could be like a 2-1 perhaps. But I'm also aware as well, for entertainment purposes, that the people in the chat, I don't want to disappoint the people in the chat. So even if I think it's going to be a 2-1 and my head and my heart are saying 2-1, I don't want to disappoint the people in the chat. So for the people in the chat, if you can see this, I'm just going to put...
Oh, yes. Yes.
So even though I'm thinking, and Lisa will be pleased to hear there tonight, even though I think it could be a win, a narrow win to Newcastle by 1 goal and 3, I'm not going to disappoint everybody. I'm just going to say it's a draw. Okay? For entertainment. It's becoming a catchphrase, so there you go. Even though I don't even think it's going to be a draw, it's going to be...
We'll take it, won't we, Ash?
Yeah, we'd take that.
And a draw will still get Newcastle into the Champions League.
Yeah,
I was going to say this is probably the one occasion where everyone's like, yeah, you know, I'll take a draw. Like, a draw's all we need.
Please don't mess this up tomorrow, Newcastle, with war flags. Let's just have a draw and let's get into that Champions League.
Gives Leicester the chance to get out of the relegation zone.
We could be party poopers, couldn't we, Ash?
we could.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
We're not going to, but we could.
And just as we thought, you know, the predictor was going to come in with a fantastic prediction of a huge win, like he did when he predicted 5-0 against Southampton. Wasn't quite 5-0, but it was a win, so we were buzzing with that. I was about to add a new picture to the game. Drax with the facts, as Kendo put in there in the chat earlier on. I was about to say you were with the facts, but 1-1, really?
No, I don't think it's going to be a draw. Let's just clear that.
Can we pin that?
I don't think that's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a narrow Newcastle win, but I cannot disappoint the chatters.
No.
You know, tuned in tonight and wanted us to say draw. So that is the catchphrase. I've got to say the catchphrase, which is 1-1.
Just think of me a draw every game.
Oh, it's an absolute cracker.
What would it be like if you went to see WWE and some of your favorite? Can you imagine if The Rock didn't say his catchphrases or something like that? You would be disappointed, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But this is not WWE. But fair play. No, I get it. I get it. You've made your points. Let's see what happens. But I have to say, massive thank you to everyone in the chat first and foremost, for all your questions, for Chris and Ash. You know what? I really enjoyed the show. It's been a superb show. Great questions, great talking points, all the way through the show tonight. And of course, it wouldn't be an Away Days preview show without Chris from Leicester Till I Die, and of course Ash from the 12th Man podcast. Thank you to you guys for your perspective on Leicester. It's been a fascinating chat about players, the club, the managers, all the rest of it. And I honestly, you know, from your perspective, if it is the case that you go down, you know, I hope you guys come back up next season and absolutely smash it. But look, if you guys stay up and Everton go down, I'll equally be happy. So it's
No, I think hopefully you'd be more happy.
well, yeah, well,
Really
yeah.
happy. Happy if we go down. Oh, you see, leaves it till the end, Ash, doesn't it? Then his true feelings come out.
I'll equally be happy if you guys stay up and Everton go down. But let's see. I actually think that even if you lose on Monday, I do genuinely think that you have a genuine chance of staying up.
Oh, they don't know, Ash, do they? They don't
I
know.
think you beat West Ham on the last.
You don't know. You weren't
hope
there.
so.
You don't know.
I hope so. It's not looking promising, but I hope so.
Pete, just before we just before we wrap up, can we throw the league table back up again, where we were looking at before?
It's off.
Yeah, the bottom, please, the bottom.
Oh no, don't.
Oh.
No, do you know what? I see where Pete's coming from here, boys. And you're looking at it obviously from your Leicester tinted glasses and everything's doomy and gloomy, but there is still possibility. There's a possibility. I mean, look at that goal difference.
Yeah, but if let's say you put 5 past us tomorrow, that's gone, and Fulham put 5 past us, so it's possible.
Yeah.
But if we lose to you guys, we've got to go to West Ham, who are riding the crest of a wave. They're in a European Cup final, and Everton are at home. I think they're at home to Bournemouth. No
They're at
disrespect
home
to
to Bournemouth.
Bournemouth.
Yeah.
I can see Everton beating Bournemouth. So no, we're down. We're down. But can I just say, all joking aside, I've got to say, big well done to Newcastle. Great season for you guys. I don't think anybody could have predicted this good. I think you'd have been happy with maybe 7th or 8th, something like that. But I hope you don't do it tomorrow. But I think you will. But look, you smashed the big 6, which is good. You're going to be there for a few years. We tried it, but we tailed off. But well done, guys. Look, I love Newcastle as a club, and I love the fans. And good luck in the Champions League next season.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, boys.
Well, it's not there. It's not there yet. But what I will say is that from a content point of view, we love what we do on away days, where we get opposition fans' perspectives. And the fact, from a 12th Man podcast point of view, and I know myself and you, Ash, are on Potter's channel, and I love what you guys talk about from that perspective. But Chris from Leicester Till I Die, and your content is superb. I've been on your channel before; it's been amazing. I actually really hope that you guys stay up. From that perspective, is that we continue to work together, because what we do on Loaded Mag NUFC from a content point of view wouldn't be the same if we didn't have guys like yourself, Chris, and like yourself, Ash, on the channel. So fingers crossed you guys do it. And if Everton are the ones that make the drop instead of you, we're okay with that.
Cool.
Maybe apart from in Chris's household, Geordie Chris's household, but it's all good. it's all good. But massive thanks to everyone in the chat, questions, everything, absolutely superb. Keith, Statman Keith, 007, whichever one, what you want to call him, your stats are always on point, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on tonight and to share your stats and opinions with regards to the show. Still things coming through right now. Lots and lots of Newcastle fans massively respectful with regards to the chat, with everything Leicester. Actually, lots and lots of Newcastle fans want you to stay in the league. They want Everton down. They want Leeds down ahead of you guys.
Yeah.
So
Everton always seem to do it every year. They seem to be like the new, what Coventry were or Wimbledon were or what Sunderland were for a few years, where, you know, they play terrible, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they seem to get one result, and that result was the 5-1 away, the freak result against Brighton. And last year, they got 1 or 2 freak results against Man United and that at home, which kept them in the league. And it's looking like it could be that way again this season, when they should be going down, but they always seem to.
They only won 2 away from home last season, Everton, and one of those was against us.
Yeah.
Definitely. Just before we go, massive thanks to our sponsors, theradiatorshed.com. Massive thanks to all your support, Russ, and everything regarding the channel. And we've got Ash and Keith in prison there, as always. And of course, they offer a home survey service that will be installed if required. And some of the quality of radiators there are there for all to be seen. And of course, we've got a huge, massive thank you to Bathroom Designs H2O, the Northeast's largest suppliers of Vilroy and Bosch bathroomware. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. So make sure you get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate in Gateshead. And just a little snippet of what they offer. And if you've not seen the pictures of Russ from our sponsors, from the H2O Bathroom Designs with Callum Wilson, you have not lived. And these guys are massive supporters of our fantastic sponsor. So let's have a look at some of the other fantastic radiators that are available to us as well. And if you're not already a member, and we've got so many other members already to the channel, we're growing and growing as a channel. You have to do it on a laptop. You can't do it on a mobile phone. So make sure that you click that blue button that you can see on the screen right now. It's $1.99 a month, but becoming a Loaded Mag member makes the difference to us. And of course, Chris is on the show tonight and got some fantastic prize draws available that are coming very, very soon. So make sure you become a member and to be involved in that as well. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all for your support in the chat, and thank you for Chris and Ash as well for joining us tonight. And look, we hope for a positive result all round in terms of not just tomorrow, but next Sunday as well. And that we're all happy. Chris is praying to the stars. We're hoping for Champions League football on Monday, but let's hope that we both get what we want. And massive thanks to everyone in the chat. That's it, show. That's it for the show. Thank you all for joining us. And as always, we do love playing away, guys.
How you like